broadcasting live 4 days a week worldwide
from the sunny beaches of Southern California.
This is ExtremeHealthRadio.com.
Hi, this is Dr. Ed Group from Global Healing Center. I hope you tune in and listen to Justin and Kate's Extreme Health Radio. It will transform your life, and you will get all the best health information you need.
Well, I just figured out how to go live. I half the way through that intro, I didn't even press the live button, and here we were starting the show, and I'm sitting here with my mouth open, drooling at this keyboard here.
I'm worried about you.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Maybe we should ask Dr. Massey when he comes on about brain fog.
Oh my goodness.
How to clear your problem.
Wow. You know what?
Just kidding.
My excuse is that it's early.
That's true, actually.
It's
You're
2
not
hours.
usually an early bird.
Yeah, it's 2 hours earlier for us, so I'll take that as an excuse. So thank you, everybody, for joining us on another episode here of Extreme Health Radio. We're really excited to have Dr. Richard Massey on the show. He's one of my favorites and just a really incredible guy. We'll introduce him in just a moment. For reference, today is...
February 24th, 2014.
You save me every time.
I know, I do. It's not your strong point either.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just kidding.
I appreciate that.
No, I'm kidding. But it is February 24th.
February 24th, 2014. And let's see, this is episode number 210.
Correct.
So if you want to go to extremehealthradio.com/210, you can check out the show notes and all that. If you want to listen live, lots of different ways to join the show. If you want to listen live, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/live, and you can join the chat room and ask your questions in the chat room there and listen as we're going along with the show. And if you'd like to submit a question for any of our guests or for us, you can just send one to Justin at extremehealthradio.com.
Or Kate, Kate, at extremehealthradio.com.
And there's also a voicemail tab if you want to leave a voicemail that we can play on the air. Lots of different ways to join the show. So it's really fun when you guys send in your questions. And we have quite a few questions here for Dr. Massey today. And if you'd like to support our show, all of our shows are 100% free, and I know a lot of people lately have been supporting us through Amazon, and it's a great way to support us. So if you can remember to go through our link next time you shop at Amazon, next time you buy your clothes or whatever else you buy there on Amazon.
Whatever you want to buy.
Whatever
the
you
world's
want to buy.
your oyster.
The world's your oyster. If you go to extremehealthradio.com/Amazon and then make your purchase every single time, that'd be a great way to support Kate and I and keep everything free for everybody else. And that's that. And so today we have Richard Massey, Dr. Massey, and he's a former anesthesiologist who saw the light, and now he's doing natural alternative treatments, and he's working with people. He does dried blood cell analysis, which is something we had done. Actually, Kate, we just realized we had this done by Dr. Massey 2 years ago.
Almost exactly 2 years ago. We sent away our kit in the mail, and it was amazing, fascinating stuff when you get a DVD back with it and hear about what's going on with your blood. And I'd love to do it again. Yeah, we should do it again. He does a blood test where he sends you a kit, and then you prick your finger, and then you send the slide back. He's got all these instructions, and then he'll make you a DVD. As far as I know, he's still doing that. And so he works with patients. He's really into all kinds of different things like recall healing, family constellation therapies, Gestalt therapies. And he does all kinds of just great work. And so we're honored to have him on the show today. So thanks, Dr. Massey.
Hey, it's good to be here.
So you're in Austin, you were saying before the show.
Yeah, living in South Austin now. You guys have probably already gone out and surfed this morning. Right?
Oh, we wish.
If the water temp can catch up with our weather, then we're there.
Yeah, then we're all over it. Now, the water's actually about 60 degrees here, so it's pretty It's pretty cold, but I've been learning recently how amazing it is for your health to jump in cold water. Do you ever do that?
You know, I do, and I can't say that I like it, but it kind of grows on a person, you know.
It's interesting. I was watching a documentary the other day on, I forget where I was watching this, but it was with these incredible people from Russia, and it's something about Russian power or something like that, and it was talking about how the whole town will go out to, as a part of their city, they'll cut open a block of ice, and they'll work days on this thing, and they'll make a big swimming pool.
Oh my gosh!
And they'll all jump in the water, and the water's, I don't know how cold. It's got to be in the 30s.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Oh boy! You know, I figure over the centuries, the weak ones got killed off, and
they got picked off, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Doesn't that sound crazy? But we had a couple different people on our show talking about how great that is for you, man.
Maybe one day we'll
get
her.
spas where there's the 54-degree pool and the 108-degree pool, and you go from one to the other. I don't know if y'all have done that before.
No, I haven't, and I hear that's really great too. Have you done that?
I watched somebody do it.
Really? Did you have to resuscitate them afterwards? Oh my goodness! Wow,
crazy stuff.
So now you're in Austin, and that's kind of the hotbed. We talked to so many people that are in Austin. It seems
Austin
to be a lot
area.
a lot of people in Austin doing pretty good work. Are a lot of people that are living in Austin, are they kind of awakened to this kind of thing?
It looks that way. A person can find just about anything and everything here in Austin, including all the regulatory agencies. So it's an interesting blend.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's quite an eclectic city from what I remember. We were there a couple of years ago. What year were we there?
2010, actually.
Yeah.
We went and visited Dr. Stuart Nunley, our dentist, one time, and we're headed back again.
Yeah, we're headed back 4 years later.
Yep. Hey, better than never.
That's right, better than never. Wow. So now you work with people. Was I correct in the intro when I said that you still do dry blood cell analysis for people?
I do, and we still send slides off, and of course, if you guys get down here, we'll do one again where you can actually watch the movement part as it dries, and that's kind of fun to do.
Oh, excellent.
But yes, we're still doing the slides to a lot of the questions today that people had sent in ahead of time. You know, it would be nice to have a slide to look at to help them kind of see where they are and which issues to really focus in on. Because when we talk about things like thumbnails and skin, it would be nice to just get an overview of things like liver function and digestion and kidney stress and heavy metals and all of that. And you can see that on that dry blood assessment.
Wow. And you can also see, I think the DVD you made for us, you can see your mineral balances and things like that, and things. Am I correct in that?
Right. You get some overview of that, and also how much food allergy is going on, how much oxidative stress there is, which relates to how rapidly someone is aging. So if a person has a lot of oxidative stress, they're aging faster than their genetics really wanted them to.
And what kinds of things are causing oxidative stress? Just the regular stresses of life, you think, or is it?
Some of it is that, but and it depends on which level a person looks at it. If a person goes by what Frank Schallenberger does, the guy in Reno, Nevada, who's president of the Ozone Society, and he has his own newsletter. He's a big mitochondria guy, those little energy factories in the cells. And Frank says that if a person is a fat burner for fuel, that they make an equal balance of free radicals and antioxidants in their little energy factories. But carb burners are not so fortunate. Carb burners would be like if I had a fireplace at the house and I was always dumping in leaves and paper over and over again, and I get these big bursts of fire and then nothing, and these big bursts of fire and then nothing. instead of being a fat burner where I get a nice big fat log that just slowly burns. So the carb people have a rougher time with free radicals.
Wow. And so I wonder how many people are carb burners. Do you think the majority of the people in today's kind of carb-heavy culture are that way?
You know, if I walk through the food court at the mall, it looks like most people
Bad decision.
are carb burners.
Wow. That's probably true, though, isn't it?
Probably is, actually.
Yeah.
It probably is a good indication, though, of what you're looking at, what people, majority is eating.
Yeah, what they're eating. Because I would imagine if you did do that, you walked through the mall, you looked at everyone's plate, I would imagine that even though the paleo diet is so big these days and all these different kind of Atkins diet and that kind of thing, I would imagine that just the average person, half their plate or more is going to be some sort of carbohydrate and things, right? Processed carb, yeah.
Now, Dr. Massey, can you tell from the blood work parasites in people? That's a big thing we've had a lot of questions about lately.
There are little black dots in the center of the dry blood whenever someone has intestinal parasites. And it seems like everybody has a few of those.
Okay.
But if somebody has a lot, I usually mention that. When I was a kid, and this is way back, way back, like before y'all were here and everything, there was still an earth. They were just getting over that it was flat and all that. We used to get a worm pill every summer. The neighborhood would pick the same day, and all the kids would get a worm pill, a pharmaceutical worm pill.
Wow.
And then magically, by the time I got to medical school, there was no such thing as parasites in Americans unless you had traveled to a politically incorrect third world country and picked them up there.
Yeah, we can't have those, could we?
No, we couldn't have worms here.
Yeah.
So now those little pills, there are other ways to do it, of course, and I'm sure y'all have talked about herbal parasite cleanses and things like that, but it looks like once a year, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we had a guy on recently who's doing a lot of enemas for, he does, what does he do? He does a milk enema with sea salt, and I've heard you talk about some of the crazy enemas that you do. Do you ever get parasites out doing kind of weird enemas like that?
I've never seen any come out. I can't say that I've done a lot of diligent looking. There are some things even I would rather not know, but I haven't seen a lot of them over time. I did go to a homeopathic course once that the whole focus on the thing was parasites, and all these homeopathic doctors brought in jars of worms from their clients. I mean, it looked like some sort of biology class. So I know that some people do get those big segmented worms that come out.
Yeah, Kate had I've
had a few
incredible experience, and she actually took some photos and put it on her blog, and quite a big, what looks like to be a worm, right?
It sure does. It's quite frightening. I know what you mean when you say you'd rather not know, but when you see these things, you're like, gosh, if those things are lurking in my body, what else is going on in there?
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it's pretty eye opening, isn't it?
So do you yourself?
See, you guys are happily married. When you find out that and you're not, you have this moral dilemma about whether to put that on the dating service info on the computer.
You should put that as your profile picture on a dating website. I think that would land you just about anybody.
I like long walks on the beach and have worms.
And I have worms. I'm a catch.
That is fabulous.
So do you ever get worms out doing like herbal cleanses, or do you do many herbal cleanses yourself?
I like to do one every year, and I have a friend in Wimberley, Texas. His name is Nick Weed. And he's an herbalist, which, just love that kind of stuff. It's like destiny, right? So Nick Weed makes this remedy called vermifuge, and it's really a strong anti-parasitic blend of black walnut and a bunch of other things that are in there, and it really works.
Wow. And can you buy this vermifuge online for our listeners?
I bet you can. It's called Weed Botanical Company.
Okay.
And I bet he's on the internet, and I don't get any money for telling you that. So, but he wildcrafts his own herbs, and pretty amazing guy. If the world ends, I want to be hanging out in the woods with Nick and his family, because he knows what to eat and what works, and he's also a chiropractor, so he can put things back into place.
Wow, I love people like that. They just know how to. So, what is with the deal with the black walnut? It seems I look at Dr. Hulda Clark's parasite cleanses, and a lot of parasite cleanses have black walnut. Is that what it's called? Black walnut?
Yeah, and I would go by there sometimes the day after they had made their black walnut hull remedy, and they would be black. Their skin would be black from their hands to their elbows in the processing of this. And I'm guessing that probably scares the worms away right off, you know?
I know, right? They just see it and they don't like that.
They go running.
Wow, so there must be something in that really, really the worms don't like. Black walnut.
Right, wow. Yes.
Yeah, I keep hearing that too.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, and it's got wormwood and a couple other things I can't remember right now.
So you like doing a parasite cleanse maybe once a year for people?
Yeah, a couple of weeks on that vermifuge works. I'm sure Meridian here has some homeopathics, which are gentler for the people who can't do herbs. You know, in these homeopathics, I don't know if you have many homeopaths on. I can tell you that I went to school most of the days of my 4 years in medical school, and we had zero homeopathy. And I'm told in European medical schools, there's 2 years of homeopathy.
In their medical schools?
Yeah. And homeopathy is like an energy medicine. And I guess these little remedies go in and sing to these parasites. And remember that old Ella Fitzgerald commercial where she would sing this note and all the glasses would shatter?
Yeah, the wine glass, yeah.
Yeah, so I think these homeopathics go in and sing to the worms and it blows them up.
Wow.
And the homeopathics, for people that don't know too much about it, I don't know too much. We had one guy on our show who was a homeopath, and it's been so long that I forgot a lot of what he said. But from what I understand, some of them may not even have any of the physical substances that they're trying to get rid of. So they could be so diluted that they only carry the energy. Is that kind of how it works?
That's exactly how it works. And Meridian's handing me little notes as if I could multitask here. You know, I have the classic male brain. So here I'm trying to talk to you and read her note.
Oh, it's impossible.
It's about changing the ecology. Okay, here it is. So she says the homeopathic parasite remedies are about changing the ecology in the gut so that the parasites are no longer needed to help balance things. You know, when we learned this over time from the recall healing and just in working with people over the years, the body is always right and the doctors are always wrong. That's a good place to start. Mm-hmm. So if my body has parasites in it, the body is so smart it wouldn't invite them in for dinner unless they were needed to balance something. So they're actually, in that way, the good guys. So the idea of all the remedies is to put in what was missing and offer another rebalancing tool so that I don't need a big worm in there. That's really a more accurate way of looking at it, I think.
So it kind of is in line with, I've heard you talk about Candida. It's almost kind of like the same idea where you don't want to get rid of things like Candida or worms because, like you just said, they're there for a purpose. But I think maybe what the problem is that people have an imbalance, maybe too many of them, and that's where all the symptoms start coming in?
Right, and of course, these guys they're kind of like the military. You know, if you got a little disturbance in an area, you want to save the military for the very last option. You know, you don't want to call these guys in to balance things. They're kind of like a bull in a china closet.
Yeah.
So if we can find a gentler way to balance something, I think that's the way to go. So if I have an overgrowth of Candida, if I can find out what the real issue is and rebalance that in some gentle way, the Candida will leave. And so will the parasites.
So you just rebalance, and then
Yeah.
Because I've heard you talk about candida, where it's, they're necessary, right? If they're not there, one of their jobs is to eat up dead cells, and then what happens if your body can't get rid of dead cells?
Yeah, exactly. So Meridian just handed me a thing about the GAPS diet, and for folks like me who've had food allergies, did you guys grow up with a food pyramid in school?
Oh yes, we loved it.
Wow, the food pyramid. You'd think like the Egyptians made it or something. We kind of had to genuflect in the morning and look at it, did you get all your 4 food groups and all this kind of stuff? And
I know.
Little did I know there were some investment interest involved there, but we'll set that aside for another day, maybe.
Yeah.
But I had that good old food pyramid, and I know you guys can't believe this, but they did not screen people for gluten intolerance before they recommended that we all eat wheat.
Oh, my goodness.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I know. It's kind of a shocking thing. And so a bunch of us ended up with a lot of holes in our gut over the years from eating things we're allergic to. Old Dr. Jonathan Wright says 70% of Americans have significant food allergy reactions and have no idea that they have them.
70%. Wow.
70%. And so those folks all have holes in their gut. Now, I had learned the part about getting off the allergic food, but that does not seal the holes in the gut that were made from the years of eating the food I was allergic to.
So you kind of stop the fire from happening, but you're still not fixing the damage.
Yes, you got it. And one of the questions, of course, that one of the listeners sent in was about how do I regrow these intestinal villi and do all this repair? Mm-hmm. And the GAPS diet is for people like us. And it actually seals the holes in the gut so that we don't keep having leaky gut forever, which is one of the big reasons we need candida, and maybe worms actually plug some of those holes. So the GAPS diet uses things like bone broth and fermented food to seal the holes in the gut.
Isn't that interesting?
I'm just reading the GAPS diet book. I've known a little bit about it, but it can get a little bit overwhelming at times. So like you were saying before the show, working with, I think you said Meridian works with people, teaching them how to make it, kind of an adaptable lifestyle for people. How long are some people eating a GAPS diet way, or does it become a lifestyle for some people, or is it for a very short amount of time usually, or how does that look?
So, of course, with any diet, as you guys have learned, everybody's diet is going to be different. I like Hal Huggins' idea that people need to be eating what their ancestors ate 2,000 years ago. That's kind of what the body likes. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit of trial and response to find out what that is. Mm-hmm. But if a person is a GAPS person and they start doing lots of animal fat, the bone broth, the fermented foods, and they look at their little blood drop like I can and see that the little holes in the gut are disappearing, or their energy level goes up, or their skin looks better, or da-da-da-da-da-da, then they're probably a GAPS person. And they ought to stay on that. If they do the GAPS diet for a while and nothing great happens for them, they may want to keep looking around.
Okay.
Interesting.
Do some people stay on the GAPS for years to heal up, I'm sure?
I think they do because there's a continuous assault now on the gut, even when people are trying to be careful. There's so many additives in food. Jordan Rubin's book about how companies like Coca-Cola and Hershey's and all of that have bought up so many of the organic food companies now. One wonders what's really in some of the things.
Yeah, you do.
But Meridian says the average time for adults to be on the GAPS is 2 years.
Wow.
The average. So some people are going on much longer. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And the big thing is, of course, Natasha Campbell McBride was the neurosurgeon whose child had autism who came up with this.
Uh-huh.
So let me ask you this. So where are the 2 lobes of the brain? What were you guys told?
Frontal lobe.
Well,
Oh, where are the lobes?
Okay, there you go. Frontal lobe.
Yeah, Kate's getting
is that right?
For me, I was just going to say in the head.
Yeah, frontal lobe. Sure, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, always, in your head. We never thought about being anywhere else, but.
Exactly. So it turns out that one lobe of the brain, when we're little embryos, one lobe of the brain migrates to the skull, and the other one migrates to the abdomen. Mm-hmm. So our actual two lobes of our brain, one's in the head, one's in the gut, and the heart's in between them.
Wow.
Interesting.
So definitely called the second brain for a reason.
I wonder if
we call it the second brain, but I think to give it its due, it's really just one brain in two locations, like two lobes.
It's one brain. I wonder if people could be more in tune. Like you said, the heart is in between the two. Just trying to theorize here. I wonder if, I'm sure a lot of people have a disconnect between their brain, their upper brain and lower brain, but I'm sure there's a lot of work people can do to kind of connect the two on an emotional level to bring those two together.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm fascinated with now, using this EM wave from HeartMath.
Uh-huh.
So now when we poke people's finger and let them watch their blood draw and let them watch their live blood and as they tell the story of how they got to feeling or looking the way they're feeling or looking, can actually clip this little thing on the earlobe, and the person gets to actually see how much of their own story their heart believes and how much is just a story that they believe in their mind that doesn't really have anything to do with their heart.
Oh, my gosh. Why the earlobe?
You can use the thumb, but I like for people's hands to be free for doing things like drawing pictures. But you can do it with the thumb. You can wrap it around a fingertip, or you can clip it on an earlobe, and it'll pick up the pulse any one of those three ways. And it lets a person know continuous heart rate variability information, which is about the unconscious nervous system. And as y'all know, it's the unconscious that really runs health. If it was the conscious mind that ran health, I could just wake up one morning and go, I think I'll have 6-pack abs in a week.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. It'd be so easy.
And it would just happen, but that's not how it works for me.
Me neither.
We're going to take a little break here, and we're going to get into this because this is really fascinating. It's interesting, Kate, when we were on our retreat down in the Dominican, we watched a 2-hour lecture by Bruce Lipton, Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he talked about this whole idea of how our brain neurochemistry and it affects our biology and all this kind of stuff. And I know Dr. Massey, you're familiar with him and his work. But at the end of the lecture, he never really talked about how we can make that connection to actually rebuild our body. It was just sort of laying the foundation. And
then we're all left hanging like, what? What do we do with this?
It was just such a disappointment. Maybe on another lecture,
a cliffhanger.
He did better. But so I want to talk with Dr. Massey about the HeartMath and all of this kind of stuff. It's really fascinating stuff. Dr. Massey, do you have a website yet by chance or no?
I'm being added on to Meridian's website.
Excellent. Okay.
Since I'm not the computer savvy guy, I believe it's awakeninghealth.com.
Okay. Excellent. Awakeninghealth.com, and we'll put a link to that. And people can contact you through that website if they need to?
They can. And they can also email me at docmassey@gmail.com.
Doc Massey.
Okay.
And that's DOC, right?
DOC.
Gmail.com.
Okay, this is excellent. We're going to take a little break, take a little breather, and then get into some of the HeartMath, the EM wave.
And then maybe get some reader questions.
Yeah, do some listener questions.
Perfect.
All right, everybody, we will be right back after this break. The history of heat therapy dates back over 2,400 years, and it was Hippocrates who said, "Give me the power to produce fever, and I will cure all disease." This FDA-approved medical device called the Biomat is a mat that you can lay on, read on, sleep on, do yoga on, sit on, and it can be used on office chairs, massage tables, and the like to help the body heal itself. It's inlaid with 30 pounds of healing crystals using amethyst and a rare black tourmaline, producing negative ions in a healing electrical field. These healing crystals help to restore cellular health by replacing electrons to the atoms, as well as penetrating deep into the body by 4 to 6 inches. What can the Biomat do for you? It'll improve your skin, burns as many calories as if you went jogging for 30 minutes. It improves the immune system by up to 40% or more, reduces stress and fatigue, removes toxins, lowers cholesterol, relieves pain, revitalizes cellular metabolism. It improves cell channels to deliver nutrients and oxygen to every one of your cells. It activates over 3,000 enzymes. And even a Harvard medical study showed cancer cells die at over 42 degrees Celsius. It reduces stress hormones by up to 78%. It allows your body to produce heat shock proteins, which increases endorphins, NK cells, T cells, and lymphocytes. It's very, very low EMF, and it's got a 17-layer technology. Dr. Mark Sirkis is the director of the International Medical Veritas Association. Explain to us more about these biomats.
These biomats are these far infrared mattresses. You lay on them, or you sleep on them, or both. You do very heavy treatments during the day, and at night you sleep at just a nice comfortable temperature. These biomats are like these love machines, comfort machines, and healing machines, because what they do is they just radiate out light, far infrared light, and you can radiate yourself all night long while you're sleeping when you're not doing anything else. And what happens is this light penetrates the body and turns to heat. And the first thing that happens when you bring your core body temperature up 1 degree is your immune system strength increases by 40-50%. They feel when you lay down on them, you guys know, you have one. So it's like the feeling is so good. It's like being in the cuddling with a lover, your wife or husband. It's just warmth and comfort.
How are you using biomats for patients in your clinics?
The cancer treatment using heat is very aggressive, meaning during the day, you sandwich yourself in between two of them, turn it on to high heat, and bake the cancer. The cancer will die before you will. No, this is, you can awesome. Go to England and spend $20,000 and microwave a cancer out of existence. These biomats basically do the same thing. Radiation therapy for cancer is really a solid idea. Unfortunately, oncologists use the wrong radiation. They use radiation that kills you. This biomat uses radiation that can save your life and make your life more comfortable, keep you warm in the cold, and help take care of your kids and all. The list doesn't end.
Yeah, because isn't there some sort of temperature at which cancer cells will start dying?
Right, and it's below the temperature that human cells will die.
So you really like this biomat far infrared technology, don't you?
But it's strengthened me. Well, now the kids are addicted to it. They fight on who's going to sleep on it at night. And it not only changed my life, but it changed my medical practice and my books. This is a great machine for anybody who lives in the cold during the winter. Instead of heating a big house, you just heat yourself. Bottom line, it brings good feelings. Just lay on this biomat, and it gives the strength back.
I can attest to that indeed. Kate and I love ours, and we think you will too. Learn more about these amazing biomats at extremehealthradio.com/biomat. Or you could check them out in our store as well. Again, that's extremehealthradio.com/biomat.
100% listener supported. Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Don't forget to join our thriving community for health tips, inspiration, and show updates at extremehealthradio.com/Facebook.
And if you guys have any questions about that biomat, please just email me if you'd like to know more about it. We love ours. Kate and I use ours every single day. But I also want to let you guys know, too, these things are just tools. They're not really necessary. I'm a horrible salesman, but I really think that the biomat is a great thing, but it's not necessary. And if you don't need it, then it is quite an investment. But I know a lot of people love them, and we love ours. So if you do have a question, want to know more about it and how we use ours, please don't hesitate to send me an email and let me know. I'd love to help you out. And As the lady said, everything on this website is 100% free. We're 100% listener supported. So if you would like to support us in any way possible, you can always join our fan page on Facebook and keep up to date with our shows. And we recently launched a brand new online forum, and if you want to join the community that way. And Kate just waltzed into the studio with a brand new smoothie.
I did. I was starving.
Did you have enough time to make it?
I did. It's perfectly blended and perfectly proportioned.
Perfectly blended.
Yummy yum.
So today we have Dr. Richard Massey on the show. And he's a former anesthesiologist, and now he's doing such amazing work. And what I'm most fascinated by him about is the work that he does with the HeartMath and the Gestalt therapy, and he works with Byron Katie's work and all kinds of emotional healing and recall healing and all kinds of
this stuff's really fascinating.
Really fascinating stuff. Yeah, I just love it. I mean, so Dr. Massey, I wanted to ask you about the HeartMath and the EM wave and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just curious. For someone like you who's traditionally trained and was an anesthesiologist and all that, how did you start resonating with alternative therapies? I mean, what in your DNA do you think called you to walking away from that?
I think it was a series of life-threatening shocks.
Oh, no.
It doesn't sound good.
There was no wisdom or insight on my part, and it was not my fault. So I just happened to be stumbling through life and watch some people in my family die in spite of the best Western medical care. And then other people in my family with life-threatening illnesses recover from simple things like diet changes. And, I mean, that's just hard to ignore.
It is, yeah.
You know, I think I'd told the story on Patrick's show about my sister-in-law actually died for a couple of minutes from toxemia of pregnancy.
Oh.
And, at 7 months of pregnancy, she had that high blood pressure. It's malignant high blood pressure and peeing out protein in the urine. And 2,000 women and their babies die each year in the United States. And the medical schools say, gee, we just don't understand this, but we're working really hard to find the mechanism and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it turns out I bumped into Jonathan Wright, and he said a high protein diet reverses it 100% of the time.
Oh.
And I thought that can't be true, because I watched a woman go into a coma from this at a teaching institution when I was a medical student, and nobody mentioned that. Nobody mentioned that to my sister-in-law. In fact, the doctors put her on protein restriction and bed rest.
Oh my God.
And this was during pregnancy? Is that what?
7 months.
Yeah, this led to her death. And of course, she was at the hospital, and they resuscitated her and saved her and the baby. And then she got pregnant on the pill. And didn't believe in abortion, and so she got worse preeclampsia on this one, and we instituted the diet, and in 2 days she was completely well. And it was like, okay, wait a minute here. How can that possibly be? And I have to tell you that every midwife I've met knows this diet. 0 doctors know it unless they've been to Jonathan Wright's class.
Yeah, and I don't imagine that they would be going to Jonathan Wright's to learn anything.
No, so that was a huge one for me. I really reacted angrily about my education. I have to tell you, I met with a holistic medical doctor the other day in the Hill Country, and she's a few years younger than I am, and she just looked at me and we both started laughing. She said, "What exactly did we learn?" She said, "I know we spent a lot of time up there, but what was it that we actually learned?"
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
Is that really true, doctor, that they that we hear this all the time, that traditional Western allopathic medical doctors typically only have about 4 or 5 hours or 8 hours of nutrition education, and even that's not mandatory? Is that really true?
When I was in school, that's the way it was, and I don't know how it is now, but the schools are paid for by the pharmaceutical industry.
Wow. Well, that's not surprising, because isn't the whole medical model was kind of shady to start with, wasn't it?
There's a lot of shade there. If you read Burton Goldberg's big cancer book, he has like a 20 or 30 page chapter in there about how the Rockefellers and the Farbins bought off Congress and got it to where naturopaths and homeopaths and chiropractors couldn't get licenses, and only people who did pharmaceutical medicine could get licenses in the United States. And so, yeah, it's pretty dark stuff.
There's a little bit of shade, I would say.
A little bit of shade.
Shades of more than gray.
Get a sunburn there.
Yeah.
What was the name of that book again?
It's Burton Goldberg was the publisher, and it's a great big huge volume just called Cancer. I think it's the definitive guide to cancer. He's the guy that wrote the alternative medicine series, I think alternativemedicine.com.
Oh, wow.
He's published a bunch of books. He's a billionaire who was very frustrated that no one would publish the stories about holistic healing. And so he had to form his own publishing company and go around and visit people. And, of course, the doctors who volunteered their information were all persecuted beyond belief. Many of them lost their licenses to practice in the United States, but they put a lot of good information out there.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. I think the average person doesn't understand about how the whole medical model was set up and the influence of the Rockefellers and how they manipulated there's all these different reports. I've heard a couple guests on our show talk about the Flexner report and how that was, and how they actually demonized a lot of these people, like the Harry Hoxies. They tried to railroad these guys, didn't they, of trying to bring out natural cures for things.
Oh, gosh. One of the real encouraging things to me is it seems like, grace and mercy just keep happening over and over.
Right.
In spite of our ugly treatment of people as a whole, we keep getting Raymond Rifes appear in the world. And that guy discovered a frequency cure for everything.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? With Royal Raymond Rife, right?
Yeah. And he waited till he compiled it all, and then he went to the American Medical Association with his big findings. And
you know what's interesting? You know what's more interesting about that is that it fascinates me, because a guy who's that smart and that turned on, you would think he would know better than to go to the medical agency like that. You would think that he'd try to keep that under wraps.
Yeah, that is odd, isn't it?
Yeah, he's so smart.
We can be so savvy in one area and so naive in other areas. Yeah.
Do you have with your knowledge and having read these kinds of books and having the knowledge you do and also the experience you do coming out of that industry, have you been able to make peace yet with traditional doctors and the medical model and knowing what they do and knowing how they operate? Because that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? To really kind of just let these people go, kind of?
Yeah, I hear you. I'm a clinger on or two. I've never let go of anything that didn't have my fingernail marks in it. I need a lot of help there. But yeah, we're all just playing our parts. And to get back into the EM wave and the heart math issues and the recall healing and family constellations, our health looks like individually and collectively is a result of whatever unconscious stories are operating.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have some pretty dark unconscious stories operating in our culture. So we're going to have a medical model that's a battlefield medical model. That's how we came to be here. We killed a bunch of people. And so the way that unconscious story plays out is we pretend to have this great caring and this great medical stuff going on, when in fact the medical system makes a whole lot more sense if we say the goal of it is to actually kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So if we say that, then all the decisions that look stupid suddenly make sense.
Right.
Because I don't see there's any way that educated people could make decisions like this by accident. They're being moved by some unconscious storyline. Mm-hmm. I personally think it's because of how we got to be here. The land was taken by near genocide, mm-hmm. and there's been no atonement for that, like has been done in Australia with the Aborigines and what happened with the Aboriginal people. The government officially got together and did an atonement and an amendment that was official. And I don't live there, but I hear from people that it made a difference in the tone of that country and how things work.
Isn't that interesting? Just admitting that and just kind of making it official and making it something that's universally recognized throughout the country. I could imagine that what that would do for the psyche of masses of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because if we don't do those things and make those things conscious, they operate unconsciously. And that's what we see in the physical body. Like, where does a tumor come from? Where does an autoimmune disease come from when somebody's really making all these conscious efforts? And what this is a story that's operating unconsciously. It's usually generationally inherited. The person will have no awareness of it. But if they use something like the EM wave, recall healing, family constellations, and Gestalt, these unconscious stories can be brought into conscious awareness. And when they are, the diseases, I'm not kidding you, they disappear.
Isn't that wild? So what happens is someone will go through a therapy session, or how does it work with something like, say, recall healing? Is it just coming to an awareness that what's really going on in terms of the story? And then once that awareness is there, then is there some tips people can do, or?
Yeah, so that's kind of the idea. A person can get one of these recall healing manuals from Peter DeWitt's office. He's a holistic medical doctor in Tyler, Texas, and he's the one who hosts the folks who do the recall healing.
Mm-hmm.
The booklet is about $70, and it changes hundreds of Western medical words into possible unconscious storylines. So the way I discovered this was once again by accident. So I can't really take any credit for anything but being willing to just do something different, and see what happens. So we had a 13-year-old girl come in with asthma. The doctors had been working with her for 7 years. All of the medicine gave her tremors. She could breathe okay, but her hands shook like somebody who'd had too much coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody had finally told her, we think this is autoimmune. So they came to see me, and we put the little EM wave on her ear. She agreed to it. And the little indicator was red, which is typical when folks first come in. They're thinking, what's going on here? What is this? Blah, blah, blah. And the brain's just going.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got the recall healing book out, and I don't know why, I'd never done it before. I said, why don't you just read these sentences on asthma? And so she started reading to herself, and all of a sudden the little EM wave changed color and made a tone, indicating that her heart was responding. Her unconscious nervous system was having a reaction. So I asked her, what sentence did you just read? And she said, investigate the history of cheating in your family tree.
Whoa.
Wow.
And as soon as she read that sentence, her mother, who was sitting there next to her, burst into tears and ran out of the room.
Really? Wow. And
yeah. So, and as it turned out, that's when this little girl's asthma started, was when the mom started going outside the marriage.
Really?
And this was supposed to be a secret. But the unconscious mind knows everything.
Yeah, there are no real secrets, are there?
No, there are no real secrets. So she knew it, and she was wringing her little airways, right? Instead of wringing her little hands, she was wringing her little airways over this. So we did a family constellation exercise where she stood in front of her parents, imagined them, and she handed back the big people business to the big people and took her position as a child, and she left all the responsibility for those things with her parents, and her asthma went away.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that interesting? So I wonder why she was having asthma. Like you said, she was wringing her lungs instead of her hands. I wonder why the asthma or the lungs were involved in this cheating. I wonder what the connection is. Why not something else?
Yeah, and in some people it may be something else. So there are people who speculate about that. Like lungs being associated with grief, and kidneys being about fear, and liver being about anger, and those kind of things. But I just want to help somebody find the unconscious story that's operating inside of them, and once it becomes conscious, the person doesn't need the disease anymore because they can express what's going on consciously.
I wonder why certain people have these unconscious or subconscious stories that they hold on to. Do you think that some people might know deep down what the actual, what's really going on and want to hold on to something even though they know it's bad for them? I guess they would, right?
I think there can be some element of that, but over time I'm coming to a gentler way of looking at that. And whenever the conscious mind tells that story, whenever I hear somebody say, "I know this is bad for me, but I just keep hanging on to it,"
right?
That's what their conscious mind is saying. But when they have the EM wave on, it never buys it.
Oh, really? So they show up as red.
It's not true. It's the unconscious story still has a grip on them in some way they don't suspect.
Now, is there a relationship between the family constellation therapy and people, there's people that do past life regression. Is there any correlation?
I was wondering that too, actually.
Yeah, I was raised Southern Baptist, and we were taught some pretty harsh things about that. And Bert Hellinger, who came up with the family constellation idea, didn't go into that because he was a Catholic priest for many years.
Okay.
However, there's a lot of similarities in how people who work with those bring an unconscious story to light. And, Brian Weiss, obviously, if you've listened to any of his work, is very convincing. I mean, this guy, I believe, is a Harvard physician, a Harvard-trained psychiatrist who's done a lot of work with past life regressions and having people have these incredible breakthroughs during hypnosis sessions about past lives. And so the way I say it is I can't know if any of that stuff is real, but it sure looks like a bunch of it is effective.
It's almost like we can't really see on a scientific level something under a microscope, but we can see the effects of their existence, kind of thing.
That's the way I'm looking at it, and so if whatever works for people, and they have some peace in their heart and some health in their body, I've got to be in favor of that nowadays.
So interesting. All right, we're going to take another little break here.
Okay.
And Dr. Massey, I'm going to send you a little Skype message on the Skype chat if you can get that. I'll also copy it to your email and send it to you. I was just curious. I just had a little question here for you during the show. But
okay.
What was the name of the website again where people can find you?
It's awakeninghealth.com.
Awakeninghealth.com. Excellent. Okay, we're going to take a little break, and we've got some listener questions to get to, but I could talk all day about this kind of stuff. This is too good. Dr. Richard Massey, and his email, if you're interested in contacting him, is docmassey at gmail.com. So that's DOCMASSEY, docmassey at gmail.com. And this is just a fascinating information, a fascinating show. And if you want to get the show notes, it's extremehealthradio.com/210, and we'll be right back with Dr. Massey right after this break. I have to say, I have been absolutely loving this product by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar called Good Morning, Good Evening Qigong. If you want to listen to the interview we did with Tristan, you can go to extremehealthradio.com/127. And Qigong is a great way to de-stress the body. And as you know, there's a huge component to disease caused by stress. And stress is a huge factor in how we live our lives and the amount of energy we have and the amount of vitality we have. And so, Dr. Shade, what do you think about Qigong?
People come to me and they're really sick and they got this blown out neurological system and all this toxicity. And I tell them, you need to do Qigong, Tai Chi. You need to do these things that settle down and restore your neurology, because it puts together all the parts. It puts you back into that state where you can start to detoxify. And so I highly, highly recommend all that.
And what about you, Kit Campbell? What do you think about Qigong? Do you like it as well?
Qigong is amazing. And the reason that I believe it to be amazing is everything here is energy. That is a scientific fact, if there ever is one. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually drawing energy into your body. Your intention, whatever your intention is behind any action, will determine the level of energy, type of energy that you absorb into your body. So your intention behind is very important, just like thought. So when you're practicing Qigong, you're actually bringing energy in and you're bringing out the stuff that might be a bit stale. With Tai Chi, it's totally different. The energy runs underneath the skin because it's more of a martial. This is the Chinese understanding, by the way. It's more of a martial art. So Qigong is very, very good for bringing that energy into the body, and just fantastic.
If you're interested in picking up this Qigong course by Tristan Truscott and Peter Ragnar, go to extremehealthradio.com/Qigong. That's QIGONG. And you can learn more about it. There's a great video on that page, and you can learn more about it on that page. And I highly, highly recommend this product. I love it myself. So go ahead and check that out. extremehealthradio.com/Qigong.
All free shows, all the time, on Extreme Health Radio. Opening minds and transforming lives worldwide. Join our community today. Sign up to our email list and instantly get our free gift to you, along with loads of inspirational content and cutting-edge tips to help change your life at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe.
All right, we're having a great time here with Dr. Richard Massey, and his website, his email, if you'd like to get a hold of him, is docmassey, DOCMASSEY @gmail.com. And just a great conversation with him. And this is episode 210 of Extreme Health Radio. And if you would like to get the show notes, you can always go onto that page, and we'll put all the links and references, books, and websites that Dr. Massey talks about on episode 210. And as the lady said, if you want to keep up to date with our shows, we'd love to have you join our email list, and you can do that at extremehealthradio.com/subscribe. And as she said, we'll be able to send you out a free ebook that's written by John Barron, and it's a really great ebook. So we'll send that out to you for free just for signing up. And so, Dr. Massey, this whole EM wave and the Heart Math Institute and all of that is it's really fascinating to me, because it'll show you, I think I've heard you discuss this before, it'll show you whether or not you are, what does it show you like on a subconscious level, whether or not you're resonating or you're in your heart? Is that what it does?
Yeah, there was someone who came up some years back, Alexander Rifton, who a Russian physicist and mathematician, who came up with a way to measure what's called heart rate variability, and it's used by regular medical doctors as well. So when you and I are in our peak fitness, the rate of the heart speeding up and slowing down during the breathing cycle is very brisk and fast. If someone's heart rate is exactly the same through their breathing cycle, that's a sign of illness.
Interesting. Okay.
So we want the heart to speed up and slow down very quickly during changes in posture and the respiratory cycle. Well, one of the things that affects this unconscious nervous system that runs that heart rate variability is the stories that my unconscious mind believes that are not true for me.
Okay.
And when those unconscious stories that I believe that are not true for me are operating, my little heart doesn't dance. It's like it's in prison. And a person can measure this. And the little EM wave is a way of measuring it on a continuous basis.
Isn't that interesting? So you could so what would be some of the applications for this? Someone could take it and kind of just monitor where they're seeing stresses in their daily life?
They certainly can. I like to tell my golf story. So, sports people use this as well. And the military gives free EM waves to anybody who's diagnosed with post-traumatic stress, just so you know.
Really?
And people can go on HeartMath and find out about the Global Coherence Initiative. And that's also very interesting. But I'm not a golfer, but I like to go out to the driving range every now and then and just whack some balls,
Yeah, get that
I do too.
Out,
yeah. yeah, you guys do. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So I'm going out there to the driving range and I've got my little EM wave on and I put it in my pocket on the tone so I can tell by the tone that it makes whether my heart is dancing or not and all happy.
Okay.
And I find out that my heart was only happy like 10% of the time while I was out there.
Really?
And I was like 30% happy at work. And I'm thinking, I paid to come out here and this is supposed to be fun.
I know, right?
Exactly.
And this is like worse than working.
Oh my
so
goodness.
I couldn't sort out what that was. And so I kept going back and I kept asking questions of myself, like, what is this about? On the third time out there, what I realized, and this is kind of pathetic to admit this, but since I'm not a golfer and a lot of golfers out there, I was kind of unconsciously hoping that everybody else who was on the driving range that day would hit a shot that wasn't very good so that mine would look better.
Really? Isn't that interesting?
So
yeah. Okay.
When I, that's kind of pathetic, isn't it? So, once I realized that, I stepped back away from the ball and I consciously looked at all the people that were driving that day and thought in my heart, I hope they hit a really satisfying shot. And as soon as I did that, then my heart was happy when I hit my shot, regardless of how it went.
Isn't that interesting? And so that showed up on the EM wave itself.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow,
how long has the EM wave been around?
It's been around for several years, actually, and they're updating it all the time. The new ones connect to your computer. You can keep the data, or you can carry it around as a separate unit. I do phone consults now with the EM wave because people can put it on, and I can hear the tone in the background.
My gosh.
And so when we discuss things, I can tell if their heart's coherent or not by the tone.
It would be really interesting. I wonder if the EM wave has this. Actually, Kate, do you want to read a question, or do you want to?
You can ask one more, and then I'll read this one.
Yeah. So I thought it would be really interesting when you were talking about having the EM wave with you on all the time. Is there a setting on that little device that will record the actual amount of time that your heart is in alignment with itself? And so it would be really cool at the end of the day if you said, okay, out of the this many minutes in each day, 43% of the time I was in alignment, and the other time I was not in alignment. Does it give you like a report like that or anything?
It does. And the batteries will go about 6 hours on the ones that I have. So a person can monitor certain activities, and then at the end of that time, push a button and it tells what percentage of the time a person was in high coherence, moderate coherence, or low coherence.
Wow, that is cool.
And I bet there are also Costco members going through batteries like that.
I know, right?
If you're not, you might want to be.
That's right.
Wow. Okay.
So you just plug them into the wall to recharge them, or plug them into your computer to recharge them.
Oh, okay.
And the ones on the iPhones actually give a graph. So when I do centering prayer, like when I first got this, it was actually someone else's idea to get these. It was actually Leanne's idea. And I thought, what a waste of time. All I have to do is just relax and I'll be green. So I got this little thing just to show her, and I sat down and relaxed, and it was just as red as it could be. I mean, I was so in my thinking that I didn't even know it. And so I started doing Thomas Keating's centering prayer as an exercise.
Okay.
And when I go off and have those 2 or 3 whole seconds of stillness in between thoughts, believe me, that's a big deal for a guy like me. I went through the 25th grade,
Yeah.
So I just get these little gaps. The thing goes green. It goes into high coherence, and the heart is really happy. And as soon as I start believing and attaching to a thought again, I lose that. And so the little ones on the iPhones actually show the graph go up and down if you want to actually watch it.
Do you think there's any issues with the iPhone and being radiated and things like that, and having such a great thing?
I don't know if you have to be radiated by the phone when you're just doing the M wave. I don't think so. I think it's like a self-contained. It's just using the battery off of it, but I don't know that for sure. And I was going to mention too, Meridian gave me this thing about relationship stuff. So if we have something going on here at the house, some little tension is building up, we sit down with our little M waves on across from each other, and so that we can each see our M waves, and only the green person gets to talk. So,
oh my goodness, what a cool thing.
So there's a lot of silence, because when I know I'm right, I'm red, and that's when I really want to talk. I really have a lot to say then.
So what is it actually doing? Is it physically measuring the nervous system connection to the brain, or what's it actually doing?
It's actually measuring the rate at which the heart speeds up and slows down during the breathing cycle. And so when that's happening quickly, meaning that somebody has a good heart rate variability, that person at that moment is not believing a bunch of lies. There's not a bunch of unconscious lies operating on the nervous system. Wow. What's going on in them is true for them. It goes back to the old metaphors in the Bible, about King David dancing and being a person after God's own heart. Mm-hmm. There's something about the heart dancing that is actually real. And they don't use terms like that because it's not very scientific sounding. Mm-hmm. But the heart is actually in there dancing when we are believing and acting on what's true for us. And when something is not true for us, the heart's like in a little prison, just kind of locked up in a public school system, can't play, have to sit and memorize a bunch of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
And it also measures 0.1 hertz. Meridian is helping me here.
Okay.
So at the frequency of 0.1 hertz, that's when the heart rate variability is maximum.
Okay, so is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah, that's a good thing. You want the heart rate variability to be at its maximum for you. And there's 4 levels on the EM wave. And when I first got it, I could not turn it green at all on level 1. And now I'm on level 3. Okay. So that's amazing for an overeducated guy like me.
So what would be the goal of someone getting one of these things? Just to find out how much stress they have in their life and how they're reacting to things? And
so there are so many, Justin. I mean, you wouldn't believe what can be done with one of these. So if a person, say, has issues with their family, like things where there's unforgiveness and bad feelings, I go out and sit by the creek by myself, get a notebook and a pencil, and put on the EM wave and go, "Dear Mom," or "Dear Dad," and I go through the list of people that I think I might have something going on with, and it will turn green when I get to the person that it's time for me to write that letter to.
Really?
And so then I start writing, and I only keep the green sentences. So one day I was remembering this little dog that I wasn't very kind to. It was one of our pets many, many years ago. Uh-huh. And I was really upset about what I was remembering. So I sat down one day by the creek and, wrote Dear Barney. And I couldn't find a green sentence. And I mean, I was really very emotional about it and crying, and the M wave wasn't buying any of it.
Really?
It was saying that none of it was from my heart. And so then I wrote a sentence that said, I feel lost here. Mm-hmm. So my heart started getting interested in that. And so I sat with that for a minute, and then the sentence came to me, in memory of you, I am kind to animals. And my heart opened with that sentence.
Isn't that interesting? So it knows. It really does know.
Yeah, it really does know. And that's what my heart was interested in, was not doing remorse and morbid reflection about the past, but in bringing that into present time and having that relate to present day kindness. And so a person can find out if they're crying at a movie is just some, remorseful thing, or if it's really about heart opening.
Wow. Well, you would think if someone, you would think it would be, so that would be a good thing. It's almost like a really incredible alternative diagnostic tool in a sense.
I think it is. And since everything really that goes on with our bodies is our bodies, Candace Pert did a talk many years ago and has written a lot about it, that the body is the unconscious mind.
The body is the unconscious mind. Okay.
Yes. So whatever's showing up in my body, it existed as a story in the unconscious mind first. And my body is the actual physical manifestation of that unconscious story, or those unconscious stories.
Yeah, there really is such a connection that people don't seem to know about, isn't there? There's such a deep connection between the subconscious and the conscious that I think is much, much deeper and more prevalent than people know. And that's why they have these symptoms, these physical symptoms of what they would think is disease or something. But it's really being caused, and maybe the causative factors are really in the subconscious.
It looks that way. And so, like, if y'all came out to see us when you're out here visiting Dr. Nunley, and of course other people can come out as well, and stay and get coached into how to get started into some lifestyle changes.
Oh, great. So you see people.
And we'll be putting that on the website. But we could do a heart rate variability test on you and see where you are. And it measures the unconscious nervous system of the heart.
Isn't that wild? Gosh, this is so fascinating. So how much do these little devices cost?
The little EM waves typically retail for $179 if you get them at HeartMath.
Okay.
They go on sale twice a year. They just had a Valentine's sale, and sometime around Christmas they'll go on sale again. And you can sometimes find them on Amazon for less money.
Okay. You got to have a sale on Valentine's Day. I mean, you can't. It would be a horrible time not to have a sale on one of these things.
I know. It's Heart Month and everything, so you got to have a Valentine's sale.
That's funny. So which model would you recommend, or does it depend on? Like, I don't have a cell phone, so I wouldn't want to get the iPhone model, right?
Right. So you'd probably get that EM Wave 2 so that it would be more portable.
Okay.
And if somebody sits at their computer all day, there is a desktop computer model that plugs right into a USB port on the computer. It's not portable, but you can monitor everything and the data goes straight into the computer automatically.
Isn't that interesting? Wow. Well, that sounds like a really cool thing for people to use and kind of get, kind of give themselves, this type of information. Because a lot of times I know as people who are interested in alternative health and that kind of thing, we still get really locked into the idea of going to see somebody or, going to an expert and that kind of thing, don't we?
We do, and that's the other thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. With the EM Wave 2, when we do an empty chair gestalt exercise with somebody, If people want to look up Karpman's Drama Triangle, Karpmann, Karpman's Drama Triangle on the internet, you can Google that. Carl Jung said that most of us humans will live out our entire lives in this triangle and will never transcend it. And it's victim, persecutor, helper. Those are the 3 energy positions.
Okay.
And people will be assigned one of those by their family unconsciously. You know, there will be the person in the family who's the victim, the person who's the helper, the person who's more the hero, go out and get stuff done kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And so we feel familiar in one of those spots. Well, sick people typically are the victim ones. And that's their spot. Mm-hmm. And they feel right being there because that's kind of what their family needed them to do. So they walk around in the victim spot. Now, the strange thing is, in our culture, the only power in that triangle of victim, persecutor, helper is in the persecutor position. And if you look at the medical model, the funny thing is the patient is the victim, the disease is the persecutor, and the doctor is the helper.
Oh, okay.
So if all the power is in the persecutor position, the way we have it set up is the disease always has the power.
Interesting. Okay. I can see that.
Which is great for business.
Amazing for business, right? I mean
yeah. And no one can ever get well. So if the patient does not move from the victim gestalt chair to the persecutor position, there's no chance for wellness.
I see. Okay.
So that whole energetic movement has to happen. So if a person comes to see me or anybody else and they feel like I'm some expert and that what's going on with them is outside of them, and they're not going to do well over the long haul.
Because we're all there's really no experts, are there? I mean, do we all just kind of know different information, don't we?
Yeah, that's really it. And, and there's ways for us to share information that's useful. But the big thing is that people who are ill, they're in that victim energy field and usually don't even know it. So when we ask someone to imagine their cancer tumor in the empty chair that's facing them, and then start a conversation, and then I'll scoot that chair closer to them, that empty chair, and most of them go into a fear reaction, and they can see it right on the EM wave. It'll go right into the red color.
Just by putting the chair closer to them?
Yes, an empty chair in which they have actually imagined their tumor. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
And then, if the person will do it, we ask them to jump up real quick and go sit in the empty chair where they imagine their tumor to be. And most of them, their heart opens as soon as they make the decision to do that.
Does it open because you think that maybe they're starting to understand what the cancer is trying to do and how it's trying to be a teacher kind of thing?
At some unconscious level, yes, and they're reclaiming the power that they projected onto that tumor. And it happens instantly, and their body feels more powerful instantly. Their perception becomes more powerful instantly as soon as they get up to sit in that chair.
Do you think that with this kind of a thing, if people are trying to figure out what's really going on in the subconscious and they're sick with maybe a cancer, they're sick with maybe some other disease, do you think that there's a level to which they could go and they would not get an answer? Like, I'm wondering if someone has this and they're immediately kind of skeptical, of this whole thing, or maybe they're not, but they just go into this kind of work and they don't go deep enough. Like, I'm thinking maybe, if it is a past life thing, maybe they need to go deeper, because I know people like, there's one lady, Chris Carr, I don't know if you know who she is. She had her body had cancer, but her body had cancer and she still has it. And, 10 years later, she was supposed to have died, and she's the most spiritually turned on person. and she does her green juices, and she's this kind of self-help person now, completely changed her life, and she's just sort of living with her cancer, and it's just sort of something that she is dealing with, and she knows that it's a teacher. But I'm wondering if there's times where people maybe can't go deep enough to get rid of whatever disease they have.
Right. No, I think I hear what you're saying. And so the EM wave, I like to tell people that it's kind of like peeling an onion, and whatever's going on with the heart today, if I keep following the heart, it's going to lead me until I finally peel enough layers, and the transformation continues. Sometimes an issue like that can be seen as a family loyalty if it's set up in a family constellation. For instance, if someone's mother and aunt were somehow bonded together in a family. Let's say that one of the little girls was killed at an early age and her sibling lived on, especially if they were twins or very close in age. Mm-hmm. That tumor can represent the person who was killed. And keeping it is a way of remembering that person and keeping them in the family.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So you can't get rid of it until that person who was killed is consciously acknowledged. And once that happens, then the tumor can leave. But until that person is acknowledged, getting rid of the tumor would be like getting rid of a family member. I've actually seen this.
And you've seen it with people you've worked with?
Yes.
Isn't that wild? And so have you seen the actual result when they finally let go and the cancer dissipates?
And sometimes it's very quick. One man's tumor was gone in a month. It was a great big tumor, and it had to do with a stillborn child of his. And that was his way of remembering that stillborn child. And when he participated in a family constellation ceremony and blessed the child, the tumor began shrinking that day and was gone in a month.
Isn't that wild? So with someone like that, or, like with a trauma, some sort of really, really bad trauma in people's lives, with recall healing, is there a time in which that trauma has to last in order for something to develop in terms of a disease? Like, is there a stressor that needs to last for, typically if it's, 6 months or 3 months or something, then you start to see some disease process? Or can it be just a low grade thing that happens, a stress that happens every day?
Yeah, so this is, and I want to get into this a little bit. I met these recall healing guys a couple of years ago at an international cancer conference. Uh-huh. And I bought the book, honestly, because I like Peter DeWitt. Uh-huh. And I also bought his book because I like Peter. Yeah. And I thought, these are things I probably won't ever read. But, right. You know how it is. You buy something from a friend.
There's a lot of books, yeah.
So, once again, just one of those divine accidents, I guess. And I started reading this recall healing book. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, Justin and Kate, I couldn't even understand the sentences.
Really?
And I've been through the 25th grade. Okay. I could not understand the sentences. So let me hit you with this one. The heart attack, the big old heart attack, that's the healing part of the disease process.
Okay. The healing part?
That's the healing part. That's not the disease part.
Okay. So it's all backwards then.
The tumor is the healing part of the cancer process, not the disease part.
Okay. How does that work?
Yeah, see, so it gets you too, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we're trained to think that that's what kills us, right?
Exactly. And so, yeah, it's funny how we have it just exactly backwards. So, and this has been shown in animal studies, which was the part that convinced me when I got Peter DeWitt's book, Heal Thyself. Okay. He goes into the details of the animal studies. And, it was just like unbelievable to read that. And just set aside the fact of how cruel people have to do this to animals.
Oh, right.
Setting that aside.
Yeah. They'll have their own issues to deal with.
Yeah. So let's take a simple one. Have you ever had one of those kind of colds or respiratory things going on where you wake up and your voice sounds a little bit more like Leonard Cohen's voice than it did the day before? It's got that deep, raspy thing, like maybe you could sing the blues karaoke and sound pretty good.
I know, you kind of get that hit, don't you?
Yeah. So this has been done with animals, and if a bull is in a pasture and a new bull is put in the pasture, that bull will start digesting his nose, sinus, and breathing tubes, start actually unconsciously eating away the lining so that the diameters of those areas are wider and they make a deeper tone.
Okay.
So when that bull makes its sound, it scares the new bull away.
Okay.
That's the disease part.
So it does this when it's put into pasture.
When a new bull is put in the pasture, the old bull will digest its airways, its sinuses, and its nose so that it can sound deeper and bigger.
Okay.
Because it feels threatened by the new bull.
It sees a threat. Okay, gotcha.
Sees a threat. When the new bull is taken out of the pasture, a virus comes in to help heal the parts of the airways that were eaten away, because things heal faster with a virus than without a virus.
Okay, so somehow the virus is connected to all this, right? It somehow gets in
it
there.
Actually facilitates the healing. So the virus is the good guy.
Interesting. Okay, so the virus actually helps to seal up whatever damage it's been caused?
Yes. The virus will help heal the respiratory system.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in our culture, we blame the virus and say this is some virus that we actually caught from someone else.
Wow.
And it's amazing how we divide ourselves from each other and create these illusions of separation. You try those stories with your EM wave and you'll see that it doesn't buy those stories.
It doesn't, yeah.
No, so we don't catch something because somebody sneezed on the water faucet where we work, or, we didn't wash our hands with the right antibacterial chemical. We caught this thing because somebody new came in the office and everybody felt a threat in their territory. Is this person going to take my job? Is this person going to get my promotion? Does the boss like this person more than they like me?
Really?
That's the new bull in the pasture. As soon as that happens, I will start digesting my nose, my sinuses, and my breathing tubes to try to sound more fierce and keep this new person in their place.
Wow, what a crazy thing. So somehow, you know what's interesting to me is how that virus gets in there, or maybe if it's some other mechanism. It's interesting to me because there seems like there's this connection. Like you said, nothing is really separate. So somehow the virus gets the cue, or somehow it knows by itself that it needs to come into our body. I mean, that's a crazy thought.
Yes, exactly. And of course, viruses aren't alive. You know that. They're just little pieces of DNA or RNA. So they can't live on their own. William Hitt, the famous doctor who did a lot of work and was kicked out of this country and sent to Mexico, I think, sort of exiled. He said there's 10 to the 14 viruses in the healthy human body.
10 to the 14, wow.
So either whoever created us made one with 14 zeros behind it mistakes, or they're actually supposed to be there for times like this, and so they can just activate and help us with healing when we get in a territorial jam. And of course, the territorial jams typically are not real; they're imagined. Like scientist Joe Dispenza says, he said, "The privilege of being human is to be able to make thoughts more real than reality."
The privilege of being human is to make thoughts more real than reality? Is that?
Yes.
Wow.
That's one of our privileges. That's one of the unique things about being human being. I don't think cows do that.
No. It's interesting. We had a guest on, Dr. Leonard Caldwell, and he's written some books on cancer. And, he was saying on our show that it's really interesting that if you are happy and you are vibrant and you're alive and you're motivated and powerful and inspired and all of these things, if you are living in that state, he said it's impossible for one to get sick. And it seems like you're kind of describing the subconscious, energetic, emotional side of what's going on with that, because you're describing when someone has these lower states of frequency, what the real sickness is, and then we think it's the virus, right?
Yes, exactly. That's well said. And so, when I think that my life is up to me, like, so here, let's take that office scenario. Somebody new comes in to work at the office. I have to make this huge number of mental assumptions in order to digest my breathing tubes. One is that I have no relationship with the divine, and if I lose this job or my position here, my life is over as I know it. There's nobody going to take care of me. I'm on my own. This is the very best job that I could have right now, and it's probably the only one I could get. That's the second thing I have to believe that's not true. And we could go on and on and on. And it's only the folks who believe that who are going to get the respiratory illness. And these typically are not conscious beliefs.
So
it all just happens unconsciously.
So someone believes that. Let's say they believe one of those lies. And so it kind of reminds me of that book, The Four Agreements. Great book, but it kind of, so if someone believes those lies, and then as a result of believing that, somehow their energetic resonance frequency lowers, and they have a need for a virus, and then they get sick. And then what is the point of the sickness when they're going through the symptoms of maybe it's somebody with cancer or it's somebody with a cold. Like a while back, I had a really bad case of bronchitis where I was coughing, and I was trying to figure out what lesson that I needed to learn. And I kept doing homeopathics, and I kept doing these natural substances and silver, and I eventually got over it. But I look back on that and I think, why? What was I supposed to learn? Is it the point of the sickness to learn?
It looks like that's a big part of it. So if you had an EM wave and a recall healing book, and you put your EM wave on and opened your recall healing book and started going through the possible unconscious survival stories about the breathing tubes and about bronchitis, typically it's about a perceived threat in my territory. And you could read and see which of the conflicts, which particular nuance or energy actually opens your heart. And so then you can track back from there, like, what was going on that I felt like there was a threat in my territory? Like, did some new guy just start a radio show that I think is better than mine? Did somebody flirt with Kate and I didn't get a chance to punch him? I mean, what happened here that I felt like there was some threat in the territory? And so once your heart answers that, then you know the deep unconscious motive. And it'll be something that you didn't consciously notice. If you had consciously noticed, you'd have just told yourself consciously. That's not even true.
You know what's so strange about all of this? It's so fascinating to me that this is all going on, without us even really knowing it. But I wonder where we went wrong as a culture, as a civilization, as a planet, or what? Because how come it seems to be difficult or challenging for people to really get to the source of what's really going on with their sicknesses and illnesses? I mean, shouldn't we be able to tap in really quickly and know this kind of thing?
Man, you're good at this. You're getting right to the heart of it.
It just seems like we should know that,
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like we're being kept out of the great secret,
I know. Well, we've petitioned for the the great immensity in the sky to send us the instructor manual that I didn't get when I came out of the birth canal. And when we get that, I'm going to call you and let you know.
Oh man, I know I feel like we're figuring this stuff out. I mean, if you really do a lot of spiritual work and are close to God and you kind of live in that way, you can really know this stuff. I would imagine if you really get true with yourself.
It looks like that's the case. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that wild? So how does it work for a cancer diagnosis with people?
Okay. Yeah, so you're gonna love this part, and I don't want to say this flippantly for anybody who's out there listening. I got kind of told about that by one of my instructors who actually herself went through breast cancer. In 1890, a Scottish scientist named John Beard discovered that all cancers, except for blood cancers, like we're not including lymphomas and leukemias and things like that, but every other cancer is a pregnancy. And I mean, it's exactly a pregnancy.
Okay. In terms of it grows...
The body digests itself just like the lining of the uterus digests itself, and it invites the cancer stem cells to implant and form a new body part.
Is that why they say that a lot of cancers are driven by estrogen, do you think?
So that plays a part in it, but the bigger picture would be like with breast cancer. Typically, if somebody puts on an M-Wave and reads through the breast cancer in the Recall Healing book, it's basically about someone in the woman's nest area is threatened, and she unconsciously believes that if she could get something nourishing to them, that would help them or free them from their suffering. And that translates unconsciously into, if I could make more milk, then I could feed this person.
I kind of lost you on that one. So a woman with breast cancer.
Yes. So let's say her husband is ill, and she unconsciously reacts to that by believing, if I had a way to nurture him, there's got to be some way I could nurture him and it would help him. She will try to grow a third breast.
Wow. And so this is kind of just happening subconsciously for her.
It's completely unconscious. And the breast, one of her breasts, will begin to digest itself and invite cancer stem cells to implant and become a new baby breast.
Isn't that wild? So there has to be, is it the type of thing with cancer where there's always an energetic, emotional, subconscious situation going on? Or are there, I guess there would have to be, wouldn't there?
It's all driven by the unconscious mind. And Meridian just wrote, like, she'd seen cases where someone the woman has nurtured leaves her. And so she thinks if she could do this nurturing, the person might come back.
Wow, what a backwards way of thinking. It's funny because with all of us, we're so into the alternative models and natural health and things, but we're still, our brains and our psyches are still so very much permeated by this way of thinking in the medical model that it's hard for us to understand it from the other perspective, you know?
Yeah, I told you I couldn't understand the sentences when I first read it. I had to read the animal studies before I could buy it. So the model of medicine we have is about managing stuff that's already appeared. There's not really any interest in finding out causes or ways to undo it.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild? So with people and their cancers, it's really, really beneficial to look deep within and maybe get one of these heart rate variability machines and start working with some of that.
Yes, and Meridian does a thermometry test that actually looks at the unconscious nervous system throughout the entire body, not just in the heart. And it's typically what's done in clinics overseas. They typically do the microscope test and this autonomic nervous system test when you first get there to kind of give an assessment of what's going on in an overview.
Wow, so people can work with her on that?
Excuse me?
So people can work with Meridian on some of that?
They can. So if somebody decided they wanted to come out here and do that, they certainly could. They could take in the sights of South by Southwest or whatever's going on in Austin and learn how to do GAPS diet and get their autonomic nervous system assessed and look at blood stuff and do some EM wave work. And once a person kind of gets started and coached a little bit, which can be done over the phone, or listen, people can do this trial and response on their own. That's kind of how we were doing it. And people can get their own EM wave and their own recall healing book. And I mean, this is where the real joy in life is, you know. Everything that's going on in the unconscious mind, one of the exact opposites of what's going on in there is a really incredibly joyful truth. And that's the success of Byron Katie's work.
Yeah, I've heard you mention her before.
Yeah, all these unconscious things that are operating and creating all this suffering, those things are important to keep, because one of the exact opposites is this great thing that's going to get us singing and running and surfing and whatever else we do.
That is so interesting, because most of the time people are thinking just the opposite, is they want to get rid of these things that are, you know, which they think are causing their pain. But it's, if you get rid of it, then you get rid of the polar opposite as well?
Yes, it's a huge loss. So whenever we're trained to think of getting rid of things, now don't get me wrong, if I go jump in the creek and I get a leech on my foot, I'm going to get rid of it.
Yeah, you know? Yeah, you don't want that on you. That's no
But
fun.
we're talking about deep unconscious energetic things. Yeah, we want to keep all that and find the polar opposite that really sets us free.
Do you think that if we were to keep all of it and still live in an unconscious way, there would be a danger, almost like keeping, you know, like if you have a snake that you kind of halfway kill and you're not sure if it's dead yet, and you keep it in the bag and it ends up biting you, you know, is there danger in that, do you think?
Oh gosh, that's an old Rumi poem, right? where it talks about the guy who goes up in the Himalayas and brings this snake back that he thinks is frozen to death, and calls everybody around in town to see it and collects all this money from them, and they all come see the big monster. And when the thing warms up, it wakes up and eats everybody in the crowd.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. Yeah, I wonder if there's something there, if you want to make sure that you kind of keep those things in balance too, if you choose to hold on to them.
The EM wave does a lot, and that people can do on their own. They can do Byron Katie worksheets on their own, but there is no substitute for doing it with people that we're accountable with.
So going through this kind of work with someone like a loved one, or someone that you can just be accountable with, like a doctor or something?
So I told you about my Stuart Nunnally story. You may have heard it. So I go in to see Stuart Nunnally to get cavitation surgery. And Patrick calls him the Dalai Lama of dentistry. And so I go in there to see Stuart, and it's like an early morning procedure. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
So guess what Stuart's been already doing?
Oh, my goodness. I have no idea.
So he has an accountability group. Him and a bunch of guys are in this accountability group. And they shared their life secrets and stories with each other. They were out in the dark, climbing a mountain in the dark, where people's physical lives actually depend on the other people.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Now, that's what he was doing before he did the surgery on my jaw that day. Wow. And to me, that's an incredible metaphor for what a full life is about. It's about knowing other people and being known. And without that, I mean, really, what's the point?
Wow, that's a great way to put it, because you're right. I mean, if you think about how we all live our lives, I mean, most of it is surface level and we talk to people, but we really don't really get deep with people, do we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine that if you were to have an M wave on, I mean, I'm sure you've done this a lot of times where you would have an M wave on, and when you really start getting deep, would you see a lot of green in that
Oh,
case?
Yeah. You see a lot of green during stillness times, and at times when a person is saying something, there's a real open-hearted feel after a while when someone is really telling the other person how they feel about them and in some deep way. I spent a lot of years leaving home thinking, I can't believe that's the last thing I said to my kids before I went to the hospital, you know.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh my gosh, I mean, really, is that it?
Oh, no. But then you don't want to beat yourself
up. Yeah, you know
up.
that feeling. And with the M wave, it really turns green when a person just gets that feeling of vulnerability and tells someone really from the heart, this is how I feel about you, and this is how important you are in my life.
What do you think is there a connection with people in terms of owning their diseases and owning what they say about things? Because, you know, a lot of times when I had stuff, you know, my health issues, I have to retrain how I say things. You know, I don't want to say things like I have bronchitis or, you know, I have these things. But how do you do that and also be really, really vulnerable and open up and really let your kind of guts spill out to people? How do you do those together? Or can you?
Yeah.
You know, it seems hard.
I don't know yet, Justin.
Oh man, I guess we wouldn't be here talking about this if we knew that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I guess there's a balancing act, right? Because you don't want to own things, but then you also want to be vulnerable too.
Yeah. I'm doing a lot of work with that and with my language. You know, I've often said on Patrick's show that the Western medical language virus is lethal.
Yeah.
You know, when we start believing those Western medical words at face value, oh boy, that's a rough path.
Yeah. Like which ones, like saying how you have a disease or something like that?
Sure, and actually believing their words, you know, like you have cancer, about 6 weeks to live, right? You know, I promise you there are no classes in medical school where we have a crystal ball and, you know, we're actually given information like that from on high. It's much like certain primitive societies, you know, where the supposed medicine man tells somebody that and they go out and die when the medicine man says so. It's a vestige of that kind of idea that people are being obedient unconsciously to the culture. So I'd encourage people to go use the Western medical system for diagnosis and get a Western medical word, but don't do what they say most of the time for treatment, and get the Recall Healing book and change that Western medical word into an unconscious conflict scenario. So here's the deal. The word cancer is a noun. So if I tell you, Justin, you have cancer, it has an immediate paralyzing effect on you.
You immediately seize up, don't you?
Exactly. Because there's nothing you can do with a noun.
Right.
It has to be changed into a verb.
Right.
If it's changed into a verb, I can do something. So if I say, Justin, how do you cancer yourself? Show me how you do that. Well, if I ask you that and you have an EM wave on and we work with it, you will discover exactly how you cancer yourself.
Wow.
How your unconscious thinking cancers you. See, I have to correct my language there because nobody cancers themselves, but their unconscious thinking does. So how does my unconscious thinking cancer me? How does my unconscious thinking bronchitis me? Change bronchitis from a noun to a verb. How does my unconscious thinking do that? Well, it believes there's a threat in the territory. That's how it does it. It makes somebody into a threat. It says, if they come any closer, I'm going to lose something. So my unconscious thinking has to do A, B, C, D, E, G in order for me to get bronchitis. Now, once a person sees that on their M wave, I can't convince somebody of this consciously. That stuff's in the unconscious mind for a reason.
Right,
the conscious mind doesn't want to know it. It doesn't want to acknowledge it. That's why it's there. So when we put an EM wave on and that EM wave turns green when a person says, Mr. Jones, he's no threat to me or he's a threat to me, and their EM wave calls them on it, they get to see for themselves what their unconscious mind believes.
Wow. That is crazy. That is so interesting. So how can someone, if they want to take a first step, and starting to live a more conscious life, what are some things that you would say to people? Like if you were standing on a stage and you had, the microphone and you're speaking to the millions of people, would you say simple things like stop watching TV and start meditating? Or what kinds of things would you say for people to start?
That's such a great question. And I have to tell you that a Harvard study showed that people perceive others asking them for their opinion as a drug. So thanks for that hit there.
Oh my gosh. Anytime. I've got lots of drugs. They're all for you.
That's so funny. Yeah, so I'm going to take a cue from Bert Hellinger, the guy that came up with family constellations, and say this. All the people in the audience who are happy, go home. Just get up and go home and be happy. And the ones who are left will talk about what they can do. But he made a statement once with family constellations. He said, never work with happy people. You never want to dig into the unconscious of a happy person.
Why is that?
It's going to make them unhappy.
Oh, and, I see. Okay.
So if they're doing well, just let them keep doing well.
I see. Okay.
When the unconscious is ready to be known, typically the effect is a great period of unhappiness, stress, disease, lost jobs, broken relationships. That's an unconscious hatching. And so those folks, they're open to suggestion at that point, and
wow.
we become teachable at that point.
Yeah.
But tell the happy people go home, have a pizza and a Dr. Pepper, and
I know, right? I mean, you eat that if you're happy. I'm sure that's going to be okay for you. Yeah. I'm sure of it. Because I think about when we eat food, and I think that if we believe what we're eating is great, then it will be great, right?
It makes a huge difference, I think.
Because we have people on the show, and there's different people out there. We'll have one person that talks about eating meat and how amazing it is and how it changed their life, and then we'll have David Wolf on, who is a raw vegan, and I think the key is just believing whatever it is you're doing. What the heck with the food, right?
Louis Madrona, the guy that wrote Coyote Medicine, he had a thing in his book about how with multi-level marketing, health products, the people at the top of the pyramids are the ones who are the deepest believers. And that's why it works so well for them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was an interesting observation, I thought.
So it's almost equivalent of like a placebo. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and even placebos get a bad rap, don't they, Justin? I mean, honestly, if we could find a great placebo, wouldn't we all go for it?
I know, and the placebo is really what you're after anyway, right?
It is.
You don't want the drug, or you don't want... It's the belief that you want, right?
Yes. We want to find that belief that's actually true for us, that we resonate with.
So interesting. All right, we know that you're a busy guy, and we have one email. We actually have lots of different emails, but We're going to read one, and then maybe we can, if you're interested in doing another show, it would be fascinating to do another show with you if you're interested. But we have an email here from Bethany, and she says, my mom is 73 years old, is in remission from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and lung cancer twice, 2 lobectomies, and she is doing great, works out at the gym 3 times a week, juices, green juices, and healthy smoothies. She is taking a lot of supplements, including, 8,000 IU of D3, B17, cayenne, turmeric. Wow, that's great. Selenium, red yeast rice, and a few other supplements. She doesn't take a multivitamin and feels she gets her minerals and calcium from green vegetables and juices. And she's wondering if you think if there is anything else that she could be taking. Thank you for taking my question.
Wow, that's sweet. My daughter's name is Bethany, so I always have a fondness for Bethany's.
Oh, wow.
That is a miracle story. And this is the kind of lady that I love to talk with. And I want them to change those nouns into verbs and tell me how you uncancered yourself. How did that work? 'Cause that's like a miracle, right?
Yeah. 2 lobectomies in her lung, I guess.
I mean, I know people that have their whole lungs that aren't working out.
I know, right? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're too tired to work out, they say. And here she is working out, and she's missing a couple of lobes, in her lung. The Meridian and I talked about it earlier, and I would encourage her, if she wants to just cover all the nutrients, to add a little Intramax in.
Intramax, okay.
And of course, I have a huge financial gain possible here. I get $10 whole if somebody buys it from the lab and uses my number. So
that's great.
But there may be stores that sell it there. It's from Drucker Labs.
Okay.
It chelates heavy metals and chemicals as fast as the IVs do.
Really? Okay.
Yes, and it puts in 415 nutrients.
In the forms of, is a mineral considered a nutrient or just vitamins?
They have vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, probiotics, cofactors. You only need 91 nutrients a day, and they have 415. So they've got the whole Mormon Tabernacle choir of nutrients in there. It's just, I've never seen a product like it. Drucker is the scientist who discovered the structure of fulvic acid, which is the big carbon complex that's in all food. And he said it takes him 4 months to make a bottle of this stuff. He carbon bonds all 415 nutrients to the fulvic acid molecule. So the body sees it as food. And then once the nutrients are released from the fulvic acid grabs the heavy metals and chemicals that typically trigger cancer and remove them from the body.
So the fulvic acid helps in 2 different ways then with this thing.
Yes, it escorts the nutrients in and it escorts the poisons out. It's the perfect bouncer for your roadhouse.
Wow. So it's interesting. Wow, it kind of does. There's not a lot. I'm trying to rack my brain here. If there's a lot of things out there that nourish and cleanse at the same time. It's interesting.
Yes, it looks like that whoever created real food had a deep suspicion that we were going to poison ourselves at some point in our history, and filled it all up with fulvic acid.
Wow! So something like this would be good for people to take as a way to get their minerals and everything, and the body recognizes this as food?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, I wonder how much would she take and how long would a bottle last, do you think?
So a bottle is 32 ounces, and I typically take it 2 or 3 days a week. They recommend that people do an ounce a day for 5 or 6 days a week, and that would be a good maintenance. People can do cleanses with it and work up to 4 ounces a day and then back down to taking a break. And that's when I got it to pull all the heavy metals out as fast as the IVs. I did the doctor's data test on myself before and after, and I was impressed that it worked as fast as the EDTA IVs for getting rid of lead, nickel, and mercury.
Really? So how did you see that on the doctor's data test? You could see the the results?
Yes, so that doctor's data test is one where a person does a EDTA or a DMPS IV. Those are chelators that go in the vein, and then collect urine and see what heavy metals come out of the body. And it tells how much of each metal. And if there's a bunch of metals, you do a bunch of IVs and then recheck it and see if the metals have come down to safe levels. So instead of doing the IVs, I just did the Intramax detox protocol, and it worked as fast as the IVs, but it had the benefit over the IVs because the IVs are going to remove your zinc, your selenium, your copper, your manganese, all these good minerals, while it gets the bad ones out, whereas Intramax keeps putting the good ones in while it takes the bad ones out.
Now, is this something like a tonic? Can people take this for many, many years, you think?
Oh, yeah. People that live in Texas, I tell them they'll be on it the rest of their life, unless we become the second or third most toxic state in the United States, then maybe we can take a break.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. Well, I guess you could say that about anywhere, especially people living in the city. I mean, I wonder if living out in the hill country, if people live out there, might be less, if you're living in just a typical urban city, there's still lots of toxins.
There really are. And it looks like, interestingly, that our unconscious stories are what determine how quickly we get rid of toxins.
How quickly? Okay. Our unconscious stories. So how would that work?
Yeah. So the unconscious nervous system is who determines how much blood flow goes to the liver and the kidneys and the intestines and the skin. So if I have a belief, an unconscious belief that's not true for me, that say is about anger or a liver issue, it will compromise the blood flow to the liver, so the liver can't get rid of as much of its poison as fast.
Wow. So if someone's doing a liver cleanse, for example, like maybe an enema or some kind of liver support, it might be really helpful for them to also kind of let go of anger during that time or something like that on an energetic level.
Yeah, they could get with their M-Wave and get with the Recall Healing book and sit and read about the liver and see if there's a real issue for them that would really be cleansing for them on a deeper level.
So this is really good. This Recall Healing book, is that available, do you know, on Amazon?
It's not. There's only one place in the United States that sells it right now, and it's at Peter DeWitt's office in Tyler, Texas. It's QuantumHealingTyler.com.
Quantum Healing Tyler. We've had him on.
Yes.
Really great guy, but I can't remember. I have a hard time remembering all the different things that come in. QuantumHealingTyler.com.
He's in Tyler, Texas.
Excellent. And then you can purchase that book there, and then you said it's about $70, and then someone could get an M-Wave.
And then get an EM-Wave and, have, and sit down and get in kind of a quiet place. I mean, I wouldn't try to read this with your EM-Wave watching a football game. You want to sit down and really focus in and be in a kind of contemplative state and really want to know what's true. And then sit down and open it up and see what your own heart says, your unconscious heart.
Wow. This is really, really fascinating. Thank you, Doctor, for spending an extra hour. I mean, we're only supposed to go for an hour today, and golly, this is just incredible.
Well, it's been great, and thanks for all the great questions. I appreciated that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And maybe perhaps we can do it again, and if you're interested. And for those that are listening live, I really appreciate that. We're going to be signing off the live show now, and you'll be able to catch the podcast and everything that happens after the podcast, after the show, from the podcast itself, which is extremehealthradio.com/210, episode 210. And so thanks for listening, and we're going to sign off the live show right now. Well, thank you, Doctor, so much for spending so much time. I really, really appreciate it. That was just so much fun.
You're welcome, Justin. You're welcome.
I will send you an email, too, tomorrow with the link, and so you can share it however you like.
Okay.
Okay, thanks so much, Doc.
All right.
Okay, we'll talk soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I love Dr. Massey.
Don't you?
You're being a little China girl right there.
Well, I was doing a little dance. a little Asian dance. Does this remind you of being in China or something? or something, like in a Zen garden.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know, it's pretty cool, huh?
I love it.
A little background music, a little ambiance.
Right.
I like Dr. Massey. He's so great.
Isn't he?
Yeah, he's super cool. I like him. I just like how personable he is. And
yeah.
That was a fun show, I thought.
Don't you wish every doctor was like that?
Yeah.
No matter who you're going to see?
Oh, yeah, well.
Having that kind of welcome response and just kind spirit. And,
I know, right?
Yeah. Well, that's another story.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is amazing. Former anesthesiologist.
Gas passer.
Gas passer.
That's what he calls himself.
Is that what he calls himself?
Former anesthesiologist, yeah. MD. Now, those are the guys that make the big bucks. They're like the CFOs, you know. They make the big bucks.
They could take you out at any moment.
At any moment. Just turn that dial up and you're in Never Never Land.
Oh, gosh. No wonder they make the big bucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you might know a thing or two.
Yeah, he's a really interesting guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's so not well-rounded. I mean, that is true, but he's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a lot of different levels. I mean, my gosh, having a man with his kind of background in medical and knowledge as far as just the science of stuff.
Yeah.
And then to also be so involved in the psychological, mental, emotional aspect.
Next time we have him on, I'd like to ask him how that transition happened for him. Because he talked a little bit about it.
How he lost some family members and things.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
The people's journey is really interesting because you see the type of guy he is now, and it's almost as if, like, how could a guy of his caliber have ever gone through medical school and bought into all of that? I mean, there's so many great things about medical school. I mean, you do learn a lot, but it's just so interesting. He's so different now.
Yeah, right.
That it's just people's journeys to me are just so interesting.
Yeah, I would like to hear more of his story for sure.
Yeah. Because he was talking about that. What book was that? We'll put a link to it, but I think you wrote it down.
Oh, the big cancer book? He's called the Cancer, just called Cancer?
Yeah. What was that? I'll have to find out what that is, but it was a definitive book on cancer where the guy talked about how the entire industry is basically set up to depopulate the earth.
Called Cancer by Burton, published by Burton Goldberg.
Burton Goldberg. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's done a lot of work. Yeah, Burton Goldberg. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knew his name rung a bell.
Okay.
But I think he did a documentary on cancer. He's written a book and stuff too. But man, I mean, it is interesting too because you have to almost be able to. I don't even know what the word is, but the phrase that comes to mind is psychically shield. Sounds kind of strange.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
I don't know where that came from. Maybe the fifth dimension.
Maybe
Who knows, right?
Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised.
But you almost have to have like a thick skin to realize what's going. Like when you really understand what's going on at the high levels of the cancer industry. I mean, maybe your doctor, and maybe traditional doctors, and maybe even people who are involved in the medical industry don't really have these nefarious ideas or plans, lofty plans. But I think people very, very high up. And so when you realize that that's what their ultimate agenda is, it's almost like you do have to psychically shield or be able to have thicker skin to be able to live in a happy way.
Yeah.
You know, and still realize that they're trying to kill you.
Yeah.
And love them. You know what I mean?
Right. No, that could definitely take you down.
Just a little bit.
Knock down your mental state a thing or two.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that is, I know that after some guests, it's been a little hard for me at times, to be honest, like to stay up. Because I feel like, oh, everyone's out to get us, everyone's out to kill us, or, you know.
Listen to our show with, this is before you came in, with Janice Barcelo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh.
Really? Well, I feel leaving a bit more sad or depressed.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she was interesting. I mean, the quality of information was interesting.
Right. But they always are.
Yeah, she was talked about the satanic rituals that's going on with...
in hospitals and things?
In hospitals, yeah.
Yeah. I want to hear it. That stuff can get a little overwhelming and a little heavy.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to balance it, like with guys like Leonard Caldwell and and Dr. Massey.
And Dr. Massey, yeah.
But yeah, just really positive, kind people.
Because Dr. Massey, it's obvious he's done some kind of work to be able to understand, you know, what all that stuff is. But then at the same time, he's jovial, he's laughing, and
right.
He's having a good time,
and he could still make fun of school. Like he said he slipped in little comments that made you go, huh?
Yeah, what was that little snide comment he made about school?
Yeah, I don't remember, but it was so funny at the time. I kind of laughed to you. I said
something about public school.
Something about public schools. He had a word or two, and that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I've heard you mention it before, but didn't understand what the heck that HeartMath was.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a little thing you wear around, but you can have that capability on your cell phone?
Yeah,
is it something you buy?
I'm not sure if it's something. I would like to look into it and perhaps get one, but it's something that you can get. I know there are like separate devices, like a physical thing you can plug into your computer, like you said. I'm not sure if the iPhone version is something like just a program that you can put on your iPhone, or if it's something.
It sounded like maybe
else, but
like an app.
Like an app. But then you were saying, you asked him how come you plug it onto your ear. Remember that?
Yeah, that was a trip.
Yeah, you attach it to your ear.
He said you could do it to your finger too, but your ear.
And so basically, it measures the autonomic nervous system response between your heart rate and your. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this interview.
Yeah.
What am I doing? Listen to him? I don't even.
Well, that was a long show.
It was.
You failed. Fail.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Just kidding. I failed too because I don't know what the heck. Like, that was just a lot of information packed into a small amount of time, really. Even though we went
a couple hours.
Yeah,
interesting though, because it would be really interesting. I love the fact that device will actually spit out a report at the end of the day.
That is crazy.
And tell you how much time you spent out of balance and in balance. Because I think it has a red light and a green light, and so whenever you're not in balance, it records that. So it's kind of cool. You can know
where you're at, what you were doing, what your thoughts were,
and
be
whether
aware.
or not you believe certain things you say, and if you're stressed and all that kind of thing.
Well, that to me seems like the first tool. Well, not the first tool. The first tool I know of that I would personally really believe in, that you could measure your thoughts, like how your thoughts affect your health. That actually would show you.
You might be red the entire time you're in the salon.
Oh, I'd probably be like, it would create more red buttons. It'd be like 5 red buttons. Boom.
Is there another color that's worse than red?
Yeah.
A deeper red?
Oh my gosh.
But I bet it would be, huh?
The fire would start spitting out of it at me. Just God. Flames every time that I walk in that place.
Like out of the back of a jet car.
Totally.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, though, no. I mean, that to me would prove right there. Like, I believe that. I totally believe that our thoughts create our reality and the way that we, do life, the way we heal, the way we love, the way we, all that stuff. But it would be very interesting to actually see that mapped out,
So he talked quite a bit about the EM wave. We'll put a link to that on the website here, extremehealthradio.com/210. But he talked about that as well as the Recall Healing book from Peter DeWitt. And we had Peter DeWitt on. We'll actually put a link to the show we did with Peter DeWitt and Gilbert Renaud, because both of those guys are Recall Healing aficionados. And we had a great show with them. But Dr. Massey was talking about getting the book from Dr. DeWitt and then matching it up with the EM wave as a way of self-diagnosing. And so you can really dial in to what's going on with your body. Pretty interesting.
Wow.
How about that whole business he was talking about with the cancer, the tumor is the healing, and the heart attack is the healing?
I actually had to bow out at that point for a while. I had a commitment I had to go to, so I missed that. I missed that.
That's right.
No, I did. I missed that. He was talking about that, huh?
Yeah, it was really interesting.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's so backwards of how we think of how the body works, but that's the body actually healing itself.
I believe that. Yeah. I totally believe that.
Because everything is upside down and backwards, in reality. I mean, everything that we know and have been taught throughout our whole life is the opposite, is typically the truth.
Right. And, that does make sense, though, that if something's out of line, it's giving you a warning that is it's not a healing crisis. I mean, it's kind of a healing crisis, but it's not like trying to take you out. It's trying to give you a wake-up call to turn it around. It's actually your body going into, I'm going to protect myself mode.
Yeah, well, he actually says the tumor and the heart attack is actually the actual healing, not just the warning sign.
So how come people die from heart attacks then if it's...
That's what I asked him.
The healing question. What did he say?
I said, what did he say?
Are you going to remember? Fail.
Wow.
I'm just kidding.
That might be the tumor. Fail. No, but he said it was the type of situation where he said, let me try to think if I can go back and remember. The tumor is, or the heart attack, let's see, the actual disease occurs long before you have the heart attack. And when you have the heart attack, it's the cholesterol that's coming into the heart to repair the damage that's been already there as the disease.
Oh.
So, which is weird because if you think about like a scar, like if you get cut, and you put a Band-Aid on, it would be weird to think that the Band-Aid is actually the healing. I guess but yeah, so he talks about how the cholesterol is the actual healing itself. And so the problem is that people don't recognize this. And so when they're going through a stressful time, and their body at the same time is sort of shutting down arteries and shutting down lanes of a freeway, it's packing cholesterol in to repair the microscopic scars that occurred due to the stress prior to that, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is that we don't understand, when the stressor ends or when the cholesterol is building, and so it's kind of all happening at once. And so we continue the stress process and the disease process while the body's laying down that cholesterol
foundation. I get it.
And so it's the stressor that causes the actual death because the cholesterol is there also doing the healing at the same time. And so the actual disease happens long before the heart attack, which is so weird.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he was talking about all kinds of... He's just so fascinating guy.
I find that interesting too. Like, if you knew you had super, quote, high cholesterol and you were on the statin drugs, that's supposed to help you from having the heart attack from the cholesterol. It doesn't even matter, like whether that's, quote, keeping you at a good... I mean, people still die of heart attacks.
On the drugs.
On the drugs.
Yeah.
On or off, because you're right, it's the stressor. It's not the actual... state of the heart or the health of the... That's interesting.
Isn't that so weird?
Huh. I can't wait to listen to the rest of this show. I'm going to be big fan. Waving a big flag for Dr. Massey. He's Richard so Massey. Fascinating.
And his email is Doc Massey, DOCMASSEY, docmassey@gmail.com. And he can see you if you're in the Austin area. You can go drop by and see him and
check out alternativemedicine.com.
Alternativemedicine.com. I think he's featured on that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sorry. No, awakeninghealth.com. That's how you can get a hold of him.
A's.
Right. I got that wrong.
Threw me for a loop.
I'm sorry. Awakening Health. It sounds like you can email him that way too. And yeah, if you ever pop by the Austin area, which we are going to be again soon.
Yeah, we're going to go see him. And we actually had our blood done by him.
We did.
2 years ago to the month.
We did, to the month. Right? Almost to the day.
Was that 2012 then?
It was.
February 2012.
Yep.
And it's really cool because I think we mentioned this at the beginning of the show. He'll do a little DVD for you.
Yep.
And he'll talk about what he sees and he'll show you what he sees, almost like you're just standing over his shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. He'll tell you where your levels are low and your heavy metals and all kinds of stuff.
What areas need a little extra TLC?
Inflammatory markers and things.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
And so you can contact him for that. And if you guys have lots to say about this recall healing, the EM wave, the heart math, and family constellation therapy and all that kind of stuff, it'd be awesome if you wanted to continue the discussion in our forum, because there's already lots of people in there talking about amazing subject matter.
Yeah.
And it's an exclusive forum just for the ExtremeHealthRadio.com listeners, so you can meet other listeners and talk about the stuff you're learning as well as the stuff that you're listening to on the show and share your knowledge and ask your questions. Great community.
We're going to have some forum friends join us on Free for All Friday.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we are.
That'll be neat.
We've actually had some people join meet up in person and become friends as a result of the forum that we're
going to have that story.
I know, it's pretty cool.
It's going to be neat.
Yeah.
But yes, the family constellation stuff, I'd love to hear what people have to say on that because that's something I want to check out a little bit more. And
I don't typically listen to the shows that we do. I should go back and listen to some of them. But I want to listen to what he was saying about... Do you remember, were you in the show when he said... He talked about the correlation between family constellation therapy and past life regression?
No.
Because we're trying to figure out... Excuse you.
Excuse me. Tried to hold in that sneeze and that worked even worse.
Bless you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting guy, Dr.
No,
Richard
I wasn't.
Massey. He's I would highly recommend working with him. He can do consultations via Skype and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Good guy.
Yeah.
So this is episode 210. So if you want to check out any of the books that he mentioned, we've got it all written down for you, thanks to Kate. And
you're welcome.
We'll put links on that show page. And if you guys would be so kind as to share this episode with your friends via Facebook, that would be super helpful. I think that more people need to know about Dr. Richard Massey's work and how he can help them.
And I have to say, I remember too from getting our blood done 2 years ago with the slides that he sends you a little kit. It was really affordable.
Oh, it's
very affordable if anyone's interested. Contacting him. I mean, I don't remember exactly, but
it's easy.
It was easy.
Yeah. And so what's cool is that he'll send you a little kit, a little box, and with the instructions, and then he sends you a video that he's put together online showing you exactly how to do the little finger stick. Mm-hmm. And then
you failed. Do you remember? This is the theme. Remember, you were very excited about getting as much of that blood drop as you could.
Well, you and I are so funny because we're so the opposite when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah, you took that lancet that he gives you and just stabbed your finger so hard.
I just like shoved it into my jugular, like my heart.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. And you made a noise like, you're some warrior. And your blood drop was way too big, and he kind of laughed when we got that DVD. He's like, well, Justin seemed to be a little big and a little out of control.
Yeah, Justin's actually got too much blood on there.
And Katie's like, Kate, yours was perfect. And remember, I thought mine was too small because I was afraid to prick myself.
Oh, for a half hour, you were like...
Yeah, I sat there all weirded out.
I had already gone to bed that night.
Yeah, you had.
We started in the morning. You were still there all day.
Hey, that's not true. That was the hardest part about that, whereas you had to take the little lance and actually shove it into your finger. It would have been easier to have one of those auto injectors.
Yeah, actually, that would be a good thing.
Because it wasn't exactly it wasn't the size of a small pin. I mean, it was a little bit more
it wasn't
hefty of a lance, but
yeah, it's
lancet.
Would be really cool to have one of those diabetic things because it would be fun to test your blood sugar.
That would be
a lot too.
Fun. Yeah, no, it would be good to know where you stand. But.
And then you would have the thing just do it automatically.
Right, because that thing doesn't bug at all.
No.
I'm having some issues over here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. No, I'm better now.
That's good. Yeah, so this is episode 210, and Kate and I are going to go run off and...
I'm going to go to the strawberry farm, the organic farm, and get some strawberries.
Are ya?
Yeah.
Strawberry farm.
Yummy.
That'll be fun. Make a little strawberry shortcake?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about strawberry shortcake, but I am going to post a recipe to the pumpkin dessert I made last night.
We made a semi-raw organic pumpkin pie, didn't we?
That was so good.
Actually, you did it.
Thank you. Yeah, what's this we?
It's this we business.
Who was slaving in the kitchen for 2 hours?
I took no part in that.
You did not.
I should have.
But it was tasty stuff. Tasty business.
It was, wasn't it? All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. We love all of you, and it's an honor to be here with you guys and providing this information. I hope you enjoyed the show. Again, this was episode 210. So please pass it on to your friends. We would greatly appreciate that. We really rely on you guys to pass this information on to everybody. You're our marketing, what do you call it? Marketing team or marketing?
Our marketing team. Yeah. Marketing peeps.
Marketing peeps. Yeah. So we really thank you guys for the stuff that you do share. It's really awesome. And if you would like to support us in any other way, you can support us via Amazon. There's links on our website to go to Amazon and make your purchases. And then we also have our store as well. You can check out all the different products we have on our store, like the blenders, juicers, rebounders.
The One World Way, I'm just saying.
The One World Way.
I've been on a kick lately.
Yeah, so lots of good stuff on our store if you want to check that out. And so we just really appreciate all of your support. It really means a lot to us. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And we will catch you on the next episode.
We'll catch you on the flip side, as you used to say.
We'll on the flip side.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
listening to this episode.
It's time to go for now, but our mission does not end with this show.
Justin and Kate will be back with another interview packed full of ideas, discoveries, and unique ways to regain your health.
Head on over to extremehealthradio.com/subscribe and instantly download our free gift too that contains cutting-edge strategies to start making healthy lifestyle changes today.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even as you educate yourself in the field of live food nutrition and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor.